squat belly up.
This is the game. It's cat and mouse.
Smoked a turkey. Yes. He is down. He is freaking down.
Said he shot an absolute giant.
Fall Obsession, baby.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I am your host for this week's podcast, Sam Thrash, and got two different guys sitting at the table with me today. Y'all have heard him before, our media production manager, Nick Powell.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And we're also joined by our other administrator, Mr. Nick Latham. Welcome to Fall Obsession podcast, buddy.
Yeah, it's awesome. We got two guys with you, same name.
I got two Nicks sitting at this table. Nick squared.
Couple of Nicks.
This is going to be very interesting.
Hey, you 1 and 2.
Yeah, Nick 1 and Nick 2.
At least you won't have trouble remembering
Nick,
the names.
I'll call you Pal for this podcast.
That'll
How
work.
about that?
I'll take that.
We'll call you Pal. So guys, before we get into our topic, you guys may notice that we sound a little bit different today. That's because we're out here actually today at Cinnamon Creek Ranch recording this podcast episode. So a huge shout out to our sponsors at Cinnamon Creek for letting us come out here and record. If you guys have not been out here to their facilities and you're in the North Texas area or passing through, you got to stop by. This place is awesome. They not only have a bow shop and archery range, but they also have a wild game processor and event center where they do kid leagues, tournaments, lessons, and even corporate team building events. So if you guys are interested in any of that, in addition to archery, be sure that you come out here and check them out. So huge shout out to those guys for letting us come out here and record. So we got an interesting subject for this week's episode, and we wanted to kind of talk about something that's not always easy for people to talk about, and that is dealing with that bad stuff out in the woods, those bad shots, losing animals, and those bad experiences, because they can haunt some guys. Mm-hmm. They can go to the point where they keep guys from coming back again, from hunting again. So sure. That's something that I think is a good thing to talk about, even though a lot of people don't, because for all we know, one of our listeners could be dealing with that right now, and if we can make a difference, then we absolutely want to do so. So
sure.
I know that, like for me, when we go out there, we dream of success. We dream of going out there and getting it done, shooting a big deer, shooting a big pig, whatever it is, and being successful. And it's not always that way. There's other factors that come into play, some of which you might not have anticipated before. And I know for me, I get really hard on myself.
Yeah. Especially
if I make a bad shot, because I primarily bow hunt and I pride myself in being a good archer. And when I make a bad shot, man, I feel like crap.
Oh yeah, same here.
Yeah, I certainly. And I think anybody that is somewhat competitive, is always trying to get better and push themselves to go to the next level.
Yeah.
And when we quote fail, unquote, on something, we fail at it, it's like, oh, there's a little ding to the old confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it falls kind of in an ethical standpoint, because you have all the anti-hunters who think we're killing Bambi or whatnot,
Right.
But what we want to do, we don't want to injure that animal. We want to shoot that animal to where it's as humane as possible. We're not trying to hurt them on purpose.
No, and I think that it kind of, you killed that, and maybe it's not even killing, it's the harvesting aspect of it.
Right.
That we're not going to just kill something. We're going to harvest it for meat, for our families.
Feed our families, yep.
It's definitely a misconception, especially when people, like you're saying, from an outside source are looking in, and it can be taken the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very easily. And a big part of that wraps back around to, one, if you make a poor shot, your primary goal is to finish the job you started. Mm-hmm. I'm not proud of it, but I can honestly say that probably more times than I would have liked to have been a part of, whether me or somebody else, I was either trying or helping somebody try to recover a poorly shot animal. It happens to all of us, and it doesn't matter if you are a if you are an entry-level hunter, if you are at a stage similar to us, or if you are on the outdoor channel. You know, it comes across all different walks of this industry and this this passion, this thing we call hunting.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Even those guys on TV that supposedly never miss, I guarantee you have missed once or twice in
Well,
their
that's
life.
a good thing about a show. You can edit it to show what you want.
I only hit the ones that are big and far away.
That's right.
That is one aspect of this. That is a challenging thing to overcome. One, making a bad shot, but two, especially if you don't find the animal. There can be other circumstances. I know, and I'll come out and say it. I was on a hog hunt, more recent than not, and I shot a pig and saw it hit the ground. I saw blood. It was in a field with some pretty tall wheat in it, and I blood trailed that thing for a couple hundred yards. I got lucky in finding the blood in the first place, but I blood trailed that thing for a couple hundred yards, and it was just it dried up, you know, and it gets to a point where there is nothing more you can do.
Right.
And that, I think, is something that guys probably struggle with the most, is when do I call it quits? When is enough, and when do I decide that I am not going to find this animal? And in my opinion, that is something that I believe that you should do everything in your power to recover that animal, to put a second shot on that animal if you need to. But if you literally have exhausted all of your options and you cannot do anything else, I mean, what more can you do?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's it.
It's a very hard decision to make, to decide when to back out, go try again the next morning. But it's sometimes one that needs to be made, because you could potentially be making it worse.
And trying again the next morning, that's a good point too, because I know we had a situation last December down in South Texas where that came into play. We had one of our staffers down there. Well, I guess I'll let you tell the story, because you were in the blind with him.
Yeah, we've
when he
told
shot.
the story in a past podcast. Me and staffer Andy Meeks were hunting together.
Yeah.
And he had this doe come up. He was going to take a shot. Had a cow come to the bait pile that we had set out. Scared the doe off. The doe actually ended up coming closer, and so he put as perfect of a shot as he could have on this doe. And somehow, I don't know, these deer didn't bleed down there. We saw that.
It was ridiculous.
But for some reason, we couldn't find this doe at all. And we had to make the decision to back out, and then you went out the next morning and helped Andy.
Yeah.
And ended up finding that doe.
We did end up finding her. She was not where we ever imagined she would be. And I remember for Andy, like, he was super frustrated with that, because he and y'all too, like, you reviewed the footage and everything, and yet you could not find that deer. And that was challenging, and making that decision that night. I respect that decision that night, to back out and decide that you're going to try again the next morning. And I went back out there with him the next morning, and that deer was 200 to 300 yards away from where he shot it, across a creek. Found the deer, but the coyotes at that point had already gotten to her.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that's always in the back of your mind whenever you back out, is that something else is going to find that animal, or a strong possibility of that's going to happen.
Yeah, and as far as, I mean, like, being a dad and having, like, Dawson, we on the staff hunt.
Yeah.
We're out there, and he makes a shot. We had video. We saw that it made impact. Maybe he caught it a little bit low. But we saw that take shape. We went. We had everybody looking for her. I mean, we were out there literally 3 hours.
Yeah.
The first day, went back in, kind of regrouped, went back out, looked for another hour and a half, and still couldn't find it. And, like, as a dad, you know, you're hoping that you find the kill, obviously, of what your son just put down, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But then the other part is, we're trying to teach the next generation of hunters how to hunt responsibly, and you have this opportunity to go out to a place like that, and you're doing a management hunt, and you're all these things fall into place to do it, and you're like, oh no, we can't just have an injured deer running around, like your conscience is like really dinged. You're really sitting there going, oh my goodness. But kids sometimes are a little bit more resilient than adults, and good, bad, or not, and really to see him, because he, because of that, you think maybe that would have a lasting impact. But I think it was important that he saw how long we looked.
Yeah.
We looked for that deer.
How long you try to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I like the point that you're bringing up, because we talk a lot about the next generation, about teaching today's youth to hunt, and we talk about teaching them how to shoot, teaching them how to do this, that, and the other, but that's not something we were talking about. Is teaching them how to quit.
How it's okay to fail sometimes.
Yeah, how it's okay to fail.
Part of life.
Because that's, like we've already said 1,000 times, that's part of it, And I think that goes right back into not only us being responsible hunters, but the next generation being responsible hunters, and setting ourselves apart from the guys, and I'm trying to be delicate here, but the guys that don't do that, the guys that just go out there, shoot for sport, poachers, just people like that don't care. Whereas we're actually we're not only trying to recover our animal, but we're trying, like you said, trying to be as humane as possible here, and teaching the next generation that. Because I remember growing up with my dad hunting, there were lots of times that we looked and looked and looked and looked for deer. And I remember one time it was a huge doe that I shot, could not find this deer anywhere, and we called it. Like, we searched for 2-3 hours for this deer, we couldn't find anything. And there was actually on the feeder, we were hunting in Texas, and on the feeder that the deer was standing under, there was a little ding in it from where my bullet had hit the feeder leg. So my dad was convinced that I missed this deer. Of course, he wasn't with me, and I was like, no, I hit this deer. I'm sure that I hit it. And we called it quits, and we're literally walking back to the truck, and we almost stepped on this deer. Like, she was laying in some tall grass, and we got lucky. But I was at that moment, I was kind of like, man, I could have looked a little bit longer, and sure enough, there's my deer. There's a doornail right there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a story I had when we were in San Angelo in December. It was not the first deer I shot, but the first deer I shot with my bow.
Yeah.
So everything was perfect. She was broadside. She was not exactly how far she was, but I kind of guesstimated.
Yeah.
And she ended up ducking, and I had a bad shot on her. She went straight down, but she didn't die as soon as I would have liked her to, unfortunately. And so, just like you said earlier, sometimes we have to finish the job that we started. Unfortunately, in that situation, I had to do that, and it's not like we had trouble finding her because she went straight down, but different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
I think San Angelo challenged a lot, and I know, again, we have a specific podcast talking about San Angelo and all the hunts there, but I think San Angelo really, really did challenge a lot of guys in the aspect of, feeling that frustration of, am I going to lose this deer, and having to really search for it, just because of the whole, I still don't understand it, why they don't bleed down there, but we had very little blood trails, and fortunately, most guys were able to find their deer, and we were very fortunate that way, but it was for sure a challenging situation for a lot of people out there. So,
well, and even into what to shoot at.
Yes, that as well.
When we're talking about, being on that management hunt, we were given instructions on this is the type of deer we're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
And the area we were in definitely needed management.
Yeah.
So all the really nice deer that were coming out,
Yes.
and you're salivating, going, yeah,
That is a big buck.
exactly. I mean, and just, I really appreciate our staff, the whole group, in adhering to those guidelines and really hunting responsibly, hunting with etiquette. I mean, we were in season, so technically, it would have been okay to shoot but
I mean, yeah.
And it would have been perfectly legal.
In
Yeah,
that
legal,
county,
yes.
in that county, I mean, it's a 5-deer county, and there were no forms of antler restrictions or anything. So,
Yeah.
I mean, literally anything could go. But the owner of the property had specific things in mind for what he wanted to see.
Yes.
And yes, our staff did everything in their power to adhere to that as best they could, which was great. So, yeah, very good point. I'm very glad that it worked out that way for sure. Another part that a lot of guys struggle with, and really guys that are hunting public land, this is one thing, but being unsuccessful. And I'm not just talking about one hunt. It's one thing to go out there hunting and not see anything for one hunt or not shoot anything. I mean, that happens to all of us more times than not.
Yep.
May not be in the case of San Angelo, but but it happens to all of us more times than not. But when you drag that out for an entire season, that can really kill morale.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Absolutely.
And I know, because we sent out a deal to our staff before we recorded this podcast about, hey, here's what we're talking about. If you guys have any questions or input, send us something in. And one of our staffers made the comment of, is there ever such thing as a bad hunting season? Because if you're not hunting, what else are you doing? You're at home doing the honey-do list, or you're at work, So,
Right.
I mean, there is something to be said about just being in the woods, but also it still goes back to, like we said at the beginning, you want to be successful. You want to bring something home. And sometimes, and I know a good comparison is like we had one of our staffers, Stephen Bowen, was at the staff hunt. He's from Georgia.
Yep.
And he made multiple comments that week about the number of deer that were out there and how, it's not like this back in Georgia.
Right.
So there's an example of a guy that is passionate about hunting, who loves to hunt, but his normal hunting environment and what he is used to does not have the number of deer that other people might have, or for sure what we saw down there. So, and for him, he's, like I said, he's used to that. That is his normal hunting ground. He'll still kill a few deer a year, but if he goes out and doesn't see anything, I mean, it's not the end of the world for him. And then you have other trips, and I'm going to bring up Montana last year again too, other trips where you travel a long way and you work harder than you've ever worked before, and yet you come back unsuccessful. That, I think when I'm talking about unsuccessful seasons, unsuccessful hunts, those are the kind of trips that really, really get to you. It's one thing to have a slow year, but when you put a lot into one specific trip that you only get to do for a few days a year, that's a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah, and especially if say you're hunting a season, you have 2 to 3 months in order to get it done. But in that case, you only have 6 days to get it done. And you prepare all year for that 6 days, and then you still don't get it done in that 6 days. That's very disheartening.
Yes. It was a long 6 days. And I know Drew would probably say the same if he was here. He was probably like, these stupid morons are up here with a bow. They didn't even bring a gun. They didn't even put in for a tag where they could borrow a gun. They just brought their freaking bows and thought they knew what they were doing.
Put all your chips in one basket.
Put all my chips in one basket, man.
That good.
Yeah, that's right.
Little humble pie there. Huh?
Yeah. Ate a tag sandwich and learned some valuable lessons that week, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lot of bad and ugly stuff that nobody likes to talk about, but is good to bring up, because a lot of guys out there might think, well, crap, what's wrong with me? You know, what am I doing wrong? And it's not always something that you're doing wrong. Sometimes it's just a part of hunting.
Yeah.
Something that we all deal with. And that's kind of what our goal is through this podcast, is to kind of bring that to everybody's attention that, hey, it doesn't matter what scale you're on. This kind of stuff happens. It's part of the game we play. But enough about the bad.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some good, man.
Lightning
Because there's a lot of, it's not just there's a lot that goes into the passion and the drive that keeps us coming back for more.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time, you know, and part of it is that drive to want to be successful, and part of it is when you are successful, look at it as a drug, you know, you want more, you really do.
You get obsessed with it?
One could say you are obsessed.
So Dawson,
Yes, that's great.
12 years old, small fry, you know, and
Everybody's favorite.
yeah,
That's right.
you know, you can talk to anybody, just go chatting around, and, you know, I really am glad he had the bad and the ugly
Yeah.
on that shot, because the next shot that he took was all sorts of good.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he gets the okay to go after a buck, which, you know, was very gracious.
Lucky little kid.
Exactly. Everybody probably decided they did not want to talk to him anymore. But so he finagles his way into getting this opportunity. You know?
Sweet talked his way.
Yeah. And so we go out, and, you know, he had to wait for a little bit.
Yeah.
The deer came through. They kind of circled around, stayed in the back. Part of it was my fault. I was trying to video everything, and I had the window cracked holding one camera, and I was holding the other, and so there was a little bit of wind coming through. The wind shifted to slightly behind us,
Uh-huh.
and so it's pushing up
Pushing
towards.
into 'em,
And at the point, you know, they're still coming in because they still want to eat. But at the point, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just focused on him. I'm trying to make sure the shot's right, and getting the camera on him and all that. And,
Yeah.
and he's going, and he finally, the buck comes out, circles around, comes out, and he presented once, and I look over, and you may have edited it out in the video that we put up, but he turns, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what are you doing? You know, in my mind, I'm like, what's going on? Why haven't you taken a shot yet? Like, it's there, opportunity's there, broadside, perfect. And I look over, and he's fumbling around for his ear pro.
Oh.
I mean, he's checking pockets. I mean, and I'm sitting there, and you know, I think I say something like, "Dude, screw it, just shoot the ear, man. Go on." And you know, and he gets back up, and you know, you got to give the kid credit, because, you know, I'm sure. I mean, number one, that was not probably right of me, because it probably put a little extra pressure on him.
Yeah.
Needed to keep it a little bit more calm. Is the shot right after he had that one that we had to go track. And that kid put it square on it. Dropped him right there.
It was an
Like-
impressive shot.
Yeah, it was.
And, you know, as a dad, I mean, obviously immediate high five. The yeses come forth, and you're just like, yeah. I mean, adrenaline's just flowing, and, you know, as we're going back, you know, he's pumped. Like, he is absolutely pumped. And I'm like, well, were you nervous? He's like, yes. But, you know, you see that, and you see what he overcame in the previous shot. And
Right.
I was like, well, what did you do different this time? And he's like, I made sure that I was a little bit higher. I aimed a little bit higher to make sure that, you know, that I got where I needed to be.
Right.
And, you know, as a 12-year-old, thinking through those things, like, I was really appreciative of the time that he took to analyze and to kind of self-reflect on his previous hunt, and say, I need to make these changes. He took that responsibility on his own.
That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I first started hunting, the first year I was out in the woods, I just went with my dad. I didn't hunt. I just kind of tagged along. He kind of wanted to see if I was interested or not, and sure enough, I was. And then the second year, he actually got me a hunting license and was going to let me shoot my first deer. And I remember, like, I probably had a half dozen shots throughout the season at deer, and I missed every single one of them. Like, I was scared of the gun. I was nervous. You know, this, that, and the other. There was always something, and I made bad shots or misses. I never even hit one in the first place. There were no bad shots. They were just clean misses. And then I remember my first year, my dad and I found a new spot. We put a new stand in there, and it was perfect. Like, it was one of those spots where you sit all day long. You know, you're gonna see deer at some point all day long. You sit in there all day long, and that's what we did. My dad shot a deer like early afternoon out of there. Didn't even go look for it. Like, he was confident in the shot. We let it go, and we're like, we're gonna keep sitting here. And soon after that, it was my turn. He was gonna try to let me get one. And so I got all settled, and there's big old doe comes walking out, and I remember he's like, calm down and just focus on the shot. Don't worry about the deer. Don't worry about being at first deer. Focus on the shot. And that's what I did, and that deer dropped right there.
Nice.
And that was
awesome.
That was awesome. And then he shot another deer after that. So, but no, it's, I mean, moments like that, and I'm sure Nick Latham, I got two Nicks here. Nick Latham, you can attest to this after last experience, and I know Nick Powell, you and I look forward to this.
Yes.
But
I know where you're going.
The excitement of watching your son be successful.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it gets to the point, like, not that I'm not appreciative to go out there and be able to knock some food down for my family, but like, I could just sit back and watch him hunt.
Yeah.
Like, I want to, don't get me wrong, I want to, but you sit there and you see the enjoyment that they're having and the almost intensity that he's going after it with. You know, you're driving down there and it's like you said, you know, well, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna shoot me a deer. You know, that confidence of, and we all do that, right? We all have those, like you said, the dreams of, oh yeah, my 10 or my 12 or whatever point, and they're just broad and just, I mean, and he had that, like, that's in his mind, that's what he was gonna go do. And the humble pie definitely was awesome,
right?
Because it made him appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
And getting to see your children do those things, it's more special than doing it yourself. I mean, okay, so I shot some deer. Cool.
Yeah.
But but him, like, I was on cloud 9 because, you know, I'm like, he just knocked that thing down right there. Like, it didn't go anywhere.
Oh man, seeing a deer like that go down, it doesn't matter who's shooting it. If you're there, it's gonna pump you up.
Oh yeah.
No, that was not only a cool story, a cool hunt, but that was a cool buck too.
Yeah.
It was a nice deer.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the first deer I ever killed. It was a nice little, well, I say nice, for a 8-year-old kid, it was nice, a nice little 8-point, just a perfect little basket 8. And I remember the field we sat on, me and my dad were in a blind, ground blind, and
Don't hit the mic, pal.
yeah, don't hit the mic. Don't hit the spring specifically.
We're working with some new equipment here today, guys, which is both exciting and different and challenging at the same time. So
We're working through it.
Yeah, we're working through it here.
We're learning as we go.
Always.
I still have that deer on the wall, actually.
Heck
so,
yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. I'll never forget that.
No, that's one you don't forget, and I know Dawson won't forget
Definitely
that
not.
trip either.
Did y'all end up getting that buck mounted?
Man, so things you learn. So he's 12, and you know, he started working on it, And now we're like, you know what? We watched some things on how to do it. I'm like, you know, we can do this. We do a lot of stuff at our house. Like, we're very hands-on people. And so we go through and I bought the different things that we needed to do it. And I was like, all right, well, you're going to have to get out there and kind of get it to a point. You've got to scrape it and do some things to a point before we can take it to the next stage.
Right.
And he's got it out there, and he's got it in a bucket, and he's keeping it all contained and everything, and he went inside to go do something, and he forgot about it for a little bit. So a couple hours later, he comes out. One of the dogs
Oh, no.
has about chewed the snout off of the steer.
Man.
So he's missing some
dogs.
nose pieces. So we're probably going to have to do a little bit different than what we had planned on. So we were going to do the Euro skull with the actual skull.
Oh, there you go.
That's what we were going to do. We'll see what we can salvage out of it, and still make something for him to remember it by.
For sure. Man, that sucks, but it's another way to learn, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
It is. It's
I bet he won't do it again.
No, I don't think so. No. So yeah, we're still working through that, but you know, you live, you learn.
There's always learning curves, man. There's always learning curves.
Yeah. Out in San Angelo, there was a bunch of turkeys too. I know a few guys shot a bunch of turkeys.
Oh yeah, there are turkeys everywhere.
Myself included.
All right, you did.
With my bow.
Yeah, I
It's
was
pretty
there.
Sweet. You were there.
Yeah, you talk about a reaction. I know we've talked
that's a
about this
good one.
before, but
Yeah,
your
we
reaction
brought it
was
up in the
priceless.
Podcast a couple
It's on the
times now.
YouTube channel, guys. Go watch that video.
You don't have to.
Yes, you have to.
Do it. Comment.
Yeah, comment. Caption contest. Something.
Anyways, I remember some turkey stories from when I was a kid. I remember I'll never forget my first turkey. It wasn't even turkey season; it was deer season. But we were riding around, because that's how we hunted during the day. We would ride around. If we saw something, we'd shoot it.
Yeah.
My dad spotted this hen turkey. He pulled over to the side. He said, "Hey, there's a turkey right there." And it took me a while to find it because she was bedded down, and I remember shooting that turkey, and then those first turkey I've ever gutted too. And my dad walked me through how to gut a turkey as well, and so that was.
You
that
call
was
it
fun.
gutting on a turkey, or you call it dressing out, or?
Well, what we did was we gutted it. We
So,
cut the
eviscerated.
butthole out. Yeah, reached up in there and grabbed everything, pulled it out, and then I want to say that we went and took it to the taxidermist. And that reminds me of another turkey story, because another deer season we did the same thing. We were driving around, and then we saw a group of turkeys running. And so my dad pulled to the side again, the same exact way. I stuck my gun out, and I was watching this turkey in my scope, and I pulled the trigger, and we just see a puff of feathers. It was awesome. We would have found that turkey too.
I'm glad you found it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. Good times.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I hope that this podcast kind of not only gave you guys a little bit more confidence or put you at ease, but just gave you some insight to the fact that other guys deal with this kind of stuff too. I know we were talking about some good stories here and ended on a good note, but you know, the bad and the ugly parts, it's something we all deal with. Like I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter what stage of your hunting experience or even this industry that you're at. It's something that we all have to deal with, and it can be challenging sometimes. So I hope that this podcast kind of helped put you guys at ease a little bit better about anything you might be dealing with or have dealt with before or might deal with in the future, because we've all made bad shots. I've done it, and I know I probably haven't done it for the last time either, so none of us have. So thank you all for listening. We appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have not already, please go follow Fall Obsession on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel. FallObsession.com is the hub. That's where you can find all of our stuff, all of our videos, photos, podcasts, and My guys are over here pointing at their shirts. We all got some
merch.
We got some
Yeah,
new T-shirts.
Some sweet merch.
We got some new T-shirts. So, and not only that, but T-shirts are some of our older designs are also on sale right now, up to 40% off. So be sure that you guys go pick something up and be sporting some Fall Obsession apparel. Also, on our YouTube channel, we got a lot of new series. One is our flagship series, Fall Obsessed Outdoors, which came out this last month for the 4th season. And in that season, you can watch the video of the hunt that a lot of us have referenced here today, with the staff hunt. I know Dawson's hunt's in there, your turkey hunt's in there.
Yep.
I think we got at least one kill from each guy that was there in on that show, so that was pretty cool. So be sure you guys do that. And we also have a new series called Cure Your Obsession. And Nick Latham, I know that you are pumped about this series.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely excited. Never shot a bow for anything other than, hey, come over here, you want to shoot this?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Shot it a few times and that's it. And this is going to be a really fun series.
It's already been fun, man. And like I said, a huge shout out to Cinnamon Creek. We're out here today recording, but another thing that we did today while we were out here was we got that bow set up.
Yeah.
And we filmed a lot of stuff for that series. So there's going to be a lot of awesome content coming out in the near future, guys. So be sure that you, like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media, because you're not going to want to miss it. For the beginning entry-level bow hunter, it is a must-watch.
Absolutely.
For sure. On top of all that, there is a spot on our website, fallobsession.com/podcast. If you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any topic suggestions, there's a spot on that page where you can fill out a form and send us in your requests and or questions, and we will do our best to answer them on a future podcast. So that's all we got for you guys today. Nick and Nick.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all for joining me today. It's been a blast, and we will catch you guys next week on another episode of the Fall Obsession Podcast.
See you later.
Bye.